Okay, you saw the story, and the story is actually, you can have two stories to it. The one is very short. Don't take one fact simply as given, but ask always about the complex societal, social, economic factors involved. Always ask as well, look for the contradictions, because we have this contradiction of having industrialization, having chemistry, having all this, which is not good for the environment. There is as well having industrialized work, employment, stress, there is normative conditions, standardization. Something we don't like, we want to escape sometimes. And at the same time, there is this advantage. And we have to look for ways of how to move through these contradictions, through these conditions. And there's always something or somebody who wants to control you. And control is not necessarily something bad. It can mean as well to give you some advice. And you have to find out what it is. I don't know with which attitude you finally came here. Eager to learn something, eager to get a job, simply to get the qualification. There is this institution, and there are people teaching, or teaching assistants, or whatsoever, and they want to support you in obtaining knowledge, in learning. But there is as well another interest. And I read by accident 2 days ago the title of a book written in 1970 in the UK. Somebody speaking of Warwick University Ltd, which means universities are as well a business. And there is a certain definition involved. You are students, but you are as well customers. You buy education. There's some money paid for it. This means you buy not just being here, but you buy a specific qualification. And this is part of the entire economic processes. There are enterprises behind it, pushing us, pushing me indirectly. So what I should teach, how I should understand economics, or how I should make you to understand economics. As I said, whatever we are doing here is not free of a certain bias, it's not free of contradictions. And there are certain ways of looking at things. And you probably all know this story of the glass of water, half full, half empty. The optimist and the pessimist. Of course, this is part of learning as well. With which attitude do you approach learning? With this optimist attitude of, I want to use it to improve something. Even if it's only this little thing, I can do something with it. Or is it this pessimist thing of seeing this huge amount of knowledge you won't obtain, not even in 50 years, and saying, why should I bother about this little thing? So it is this attitude. But you will learn as well about other ways of assessing it. A kind of neutral way. It's realist. You don't assess it, you don't value it in terms of it's good, it's bad. You just say it's a glass of water. And water is something very concrete. We all know what water is, kind of. Because if you have somebody else, he says it's not about water. Let's take even a more neutral term and let's talk about liquid. And it's not about half full or half empty. But we can say as well, this empty is not really empty, there is gas in it. We can qualify it. But we can play as well with it. We can say there is no reason that this water has to be really at the bottom. Can we have another idea of shifting the water, surreal, above the reality? The reality we know, the water is heavier than air, than gas, most of the gas, most of the water, and it's at the bottom. But we can think about other models. And we can say, well, it doesn't really matter, it's just relative. We relate the two halves to each other. Then we may come to the conclusion of having dreams, something we want to achieve, and where we try to find a way. Utopia. If you go, not least in economics, we have so many different utopias. Thomas Morus, thinking about how can we organize a society, how can we organize the economy of a society in a way that much more people gain from it, that everybody gains from it. Then, of course, there is this question, is it really water? What are we dealing with? Because even if we are looking at water, there are so different qualities of water. When we say this is water, it's not necessarily the same water as in the bottle, cleaned and processed. But what do we know? Nihilists, we just deny anything and we say it doesn't matter. We just do our own thing. We try to abstract, to get away. There are some basic rules of drawing actually perspectives. Because when we usually draw anything, we arrive at this point that we cannot really draw space. Three dimensions. This is two dimensions. We have this dimensions, but we cannot go here. We cannot draw. But we can create this illusion. And we can have illusions in different ways. Now there is an advantage if you sit here nearer to me. You know what this is? A deck of cards. All different cards, right? You can see all different, okay? Now I can turn it around. Still all the same cards, right? I'll do it this way. So nevertheless, there's the question. There's one magic card. I don't know actually if it's the magic card or if it's just a magic power that I have.
Okay, so here's how the trick would go. You start off by showing that all the cards are in fact different, and I would have a card selected from the pack. It's a completely free choice, there's no forcing involved. You can just dribble through the cards and the spectator would say stop at any point they wanted. So let's say they said stop right about here at the 9 of clubs. That's perfect. Okay, so we'll leave the 9 in the center of the pack, and here's what we'll do. With just a snap of the fingers, that 9 jumps right to the top of the deck. Okay, we'll do it again, watch carefully. I'm just gonna cut that 9 very cleanly into the center of the pack. No funny moves, no nothing, but with just a snap of the fingers, again, it jumps right back to the top. Okay, once more. You can clearly see it go into the middle of the pack. Okay, no sudden movements, just a snap. And it once again jumps to the top. Now the way this works is I'm actually cheating, okay? Because if you look at the pack, oh, I thought that was 9 of clubs. That actually the 8 of clubs. However, if we watch carefully, if you just look right here, what we can do is we can actually change it to the 9. And not only does that card change, but the entire deck changes to the 9 of clubs.
Putting this card here, just change it. But you have to be careful. You have to really make sure that this card is now dominant. You have to push it basically through. And what you see, all the same card. You can turn it around again. But if you really turn it around, it's all the same. So this is basically what we are doing in academic work. We try to find out what happens if I take this away. Try to get this out of the deck of cards which have all the. It's amazing. But it's not real. If you put it there, it's just the same. Try to find out. This is what we try to do. Try to find out what is behind it. Is it this card? Is it something I can do? I really can push it through. Or is there something else? We know it's not that I twist it around. This doesn't matter. What is behind it? And sometimes we can see it. Actually, you can see it if you look closely. You can see it. Just you see that I take it away. You see, it's gone. You see something. But there's much more you can see. This is what we do. Observation. Trying to find an order to it. Trying to find laws to it. Trying to find out if we can do it with any other game. It may work, I don't know. Just can try. It's all different. It doesn't work. So, but perhaps it works with this game. We just try. But make sure that it's really going on. You can turn it around again. This works. There must be something in this room, perhaps. We put an order to it. We try to find out what is the order. And of course, we never forget, that's what we know already, we never forget practice, the way we act. Whatever this action is part of it. There are some things that are there. A blackboard is there. But it's real only if we use it. In which way ever. We write on it, we lean against it, and we have dirty clothes afterwards. This is how we relate to the reality. And this is how we try to put order into some things that look rather orderly or chaotic. They can take different orders as well. And it's just changing, magically changing. If we look at it, just can say it's amazing, it's beautiful, it's confusing. And there's a certain way of developing, taking forms, taking different forms, changing forms. It's again something we can explore. We can explore it in the same way as we can explore what I showed you with these cards. And if we look long enough and often enough at it, we see actually how it works. To some extent it is, ragazzi, to some extent it's simply a matter of development. You start with this one picture of what is called pendulum waves. You see a certain structure and you see the changes. And this is what this riddle was about. It's time. Things change over time. There's a past, there is a present, and this presence is actually, in a way, it doesn't exist. Because it's immediately gone. If it is present and we say this is present, it's gone, it's past. And if I say I go now, I mean I go in the future, but I actually go now. So we have these three brothers living there, which is past, present, and future, which is presence. Start with the presence. And then you look, from where does this presence come? And can we find out where it goes? So coming a bit to economics, as I said, we are moving learning skills, business learning, and economics. I said as a very broad definition, it is about economic processes. And saying it this way means basically the formulation is tautological. I say a letter is part of an alphabet, and I say at the same time the alphabet is the combination of letters. I explain the one thing with the other without knowing what the other is, and use the other to explain the one thing. So it's a kind of circular process. I say economics is about economic processes. And what are economic processes? Economic processes are what we are exploring in economics. So this is the kind of academic approach to it. The less academic approach is, it is about taking still a very broad definition. It is about how we organize living together, not in absolutely general terms, but in terms of production and reproduction of our daily life. It's the material production. It's the washing by hand. It's the washing machine. That's our personal production, what we do in our households. Or we have somebody else, parents, who do it for us. But it is as well about the production of the washing machine and the production of the clothes we have. We want to wash. And we is we being here. But we are as well people like myself who is currently here, who lived in a couple of countries throughout the couple of years I lived, and who actually bought this shirt in Cuba earlier this year in Berlin. So it's not only we here, what we produce immediately, what we exchange immediately, the education you buy from UCC, the education I provide working for the university, but it is as well part of this entire kind of world economy where international trade takes place. There's something about I love, there's something about Dickens, there's something about Carol. Yeah, come on. It's not China anymore in terms of a small place isolated from the rest of the world. There is increasingly, and it's not about liking it or not. First and foremost, it's simply something to state, to look at. That even Chinese language is now taking a different form. fortunate for me. But it's not just the language, as I said during the seminar, it's as well a certain way of thinking. We know, you know, other languages. And you have to be aware of it that the other languages you know are English, predominantly. I don't know how many of you learn another language on top of English. This is something new. Actually, I just see there's one T-shirt as well with the Chinese characters. There is something going on currently called globalization. Economic processes, huge, massive, fast changes. When I studied, there was not really any idea of studying abroad or going abroad. My father was traveling, but he was traveling for business and he did it on his own. We occasionally went for holidays, kind of nearby. When I was, the first flight I did, I think I was 32 years. The first flight of my daughter was with 4 years or 3 years, I'm not sure. These are huge changes. At the same time, with my little angel, with my daughter, I went in Italy to one of the palaces. She visited me there and I had to work and I said, today you can decide, we do whatever you want. And she said, I want to go to one of the palaces, to Palazzo de' Medici, one of the famous families, historic, Renaissance. So we went there. It was amazing to see at that time of the Medici, of the Renaissance, how many items you saw in the palace coming actually from Asia, where we would think this was pre-globalization. There had been so many things, items, vases, whatsoever, in this palace. It works in a different way now, but at the same time, it's not completely new. Looking at these processes, we have to be aware of the fact that there are different ways of looking at it. What I showed you with the glasses is the one thing, half full, half empty, physicist approach. If you study economics, and this is especially for economics, finance, accounting, things like this as well, but especially economics, there is not one approach to it. There are certain basic things that are commonly agreed upon. We will come to this later. If you want, the first developed economic system was established by a medical doctor. It was the first closed system of economic thinking. Taking it from the body, blood circulation, how does this work in economy? People exchange money, get products, buy stuff, sell stuff. Can we compare this? So we always have to say as well, we can look at things in a different perspective. And you find all this on this paper you should have at this stage, or it's on Blackboard. There is not only one answer to economic questions. There is actually not only one economic question. Look at the washing machine. Can have different approaches to it. You look at the environment perspective. You look at the social perspective. You look even from the perspective of education at it. And this is what you will have to develop while you are studying these 4 years, or now 3 years left. What do you really want to do with it? For yourself? Or for your society? And for your society, it can be your family, it can be your village, it can be your town, it can be your country, or it can be the world. These criteria actually come from the World Economic Association, which is a global, really global association. There's something, I just read an article about it. It's amazing how many people studying economics think we should not agree, we should not disagree. The most important thing you can learn in economics is disagreement. And this is what you will learn. There is always disagreement. You possibly or probably heard demand supply. Very simple thing, but even this is not as simple as it seems to be, because you can start from the demand or you can start from the supply, which makes a huge difference. And we can try to find out, we can discuss this. This is what economics is as well about, to learn how to discuss these things. And then we can be wrong. This is something you saw getting manifest in 2007, 2008, with the global financial crisis, or what is now known as global financial crisis. People before, in important positions, said, this is what we have to do, and this is the only thing we have to do, and then everything will develop in a positive way. It crashed. Some people said this before. Some people said it won't work this way. They didn't discuss it really, because the IMF is not a body. The IMF, as the world power in this respect, doesn't want to discuss it. This is the real problem, that people had been wrong. Things can happen. You can be wrong. For whatever reason, you have the wrong data or whatever. But don't insist on what you say. Look, if there is a different opinion, what is the reason behind it? In economics, do they have other figures? Do they have other numbers? Do they take the position of somebody else? Because economics is always as well a social science in terms of engaging for certain people. For certain people, can be national interests, can be regional interests, it can be social interests. If you remember the summary of the world, at that time, 51 women, 49 men. If you look at the reality, in dominant positions there are probably 75 men, if not more, and 25 women. If you look at it globally, if it happens now in the United States, there is a female president, it would be the first time in history. In Ireland, we have had, I think in 79 or 89, the first president, a woman, a female president. These are still exceptions. And we can say, whenever we think about economics, and we have to say it, we have to consider specific interests of women, of workers, of enterprises, of regions. These are important questions that go hand in hand with it. There are some very bold statements made by famous colleagues. It goes all into this direction. Economics is a little bit about brainwashing. And this is something you have to be aware of, and I try to push you to remain aware of, to become aware of, and to stay alert. All these models are a kind of brainwashing. They put something into a box, into a formula, into an equation, into a definition. And there are many things left out. This is the reason why you should not expect, after this year, after studying 3 years, after working in this field for 10 years, I know everything. It's a kind of permanent development. Think about this pendulum wave. You come back to certain knowledge, but you make detours. And then you always should come back. This is a difficulty we have in economics. You should come back to practice. There's another vision of the half full, half empty glass. If, as fish, you have the head underwater, you are reasonably okay. If you are not underwater, you won't drive, but you won't be able to breathe. If you want to have shadow, it may be just the tree you need, and it's not anything you have to build for it. It's not always the case, but think exactly about what you want. And there are always certain interests in whatever we want, certain interests behind it, and this is something we have to consider as well. So we have 1 week break, at least I think, and then we'll see at some stage. Thank you.